Hello everybody, welcome to Python for Everybody. We're doing some code walkthroughs. If you want to get the source code, you can take a look at the sample code and download it and work through it. And so what we're working on now is doing some retrieval and visualization of email data. It's kind of ironic. We're going to now look at the email data that we that we started with. It's the same Sakai developer list email data. And so there's this service called Gmane. And Gmane archives developer lists and various email lists. And I've made a copy of their data because all the students in my class hitting their server with their API would crush it. So in order to be a nice guy, I put up a much more powerful server with just the data from this one list. And it's about a gigabyte of data, so be real careful if you're paying for network. So the basic process we're going to go through is we're going to have a spidering process that's a simple, restartable, focused on the network problems, data pulling to pull content.sqlite, and there's going to be a database there. And then we're going to have a cleanup process. This database is going to get large, about a gigabyte. And then we're going to have a process that kind of grinds through this data. It takes a while. And so then it's going to read this mapping, and I'll show you that when it comes, because things like people's names have changed over all these years. And it does a cleanup and makes a really nice, highly relational version of this data. And then we visualize from here. And so this could take you several days to finish this. This will take like a few minutes to run, and then this will just take seconds to run. And so this is a multi-step process where if you were doing something like running something for 2 days to produce a visualization and it blew up 3/4 of the way through, it would do you no good. And so that's why we break this into simple parts. But right now we're just going to focus on this part right here and take a look at the mail bit, the mail bit, and retrieve the mail, and then we'll have another video to talk about the rest of this stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. So here is gmane.py. That is the basic code, and it's hopefully this stuff is starting to look familiar. The thing that's weird here is we've got to do some date time parsing, and there is code that's out there, but you may have to install it, and I had to write my code in a way that didn't assume that you could install the date time parser. And so it has it, even if that's not there, it uses my own date time parser, and that's what this code is. Don't worry too much about that. And of course we have to deal with the lack of certificates inside of Python. And so we start things out. And this is really a simple table. We've got a messages table that's got a primary key, the email itself, when it was sent, what the subject, and the headers and the body. Okay? And so what we're going to do is, because we have to pick up where we left off, we're going to select the largest primary key from the messages table and retrieve that, and then we're going to go to the one after that. Okay, and so we know what the ID is, and we're going to pick up where we left off. And so we have a starting point. It starts either 0 or 1, and we're going to ask how many messages to retrieve. We've got some counters, and so we're going to say, okay, see if select ID for messages where ID equals whatever that starting is. That's the highest number we've seen so far, and if row is not none, that means we've already retrieved this particular email message. Otherwise, we're going to keep on going, and we're in good shape. And this is one that we want to retrieve. And we're subtracting that so we don't. And so this is the base URL. This is the URL of our API, the one that I copy. I have a nice copy of all this data on a server that's accessible worldwide and won't crash. So the format of this is, you can say I would like the email address for from 1 to 2, or from 100. Oops. From 102, 101, message 101 to 102, and we can just kind of walk through these things. So that's the message ID. And so if we're going to make the URL, we're going to take the base URL, add the starting address, and then add +1. So we got the slash at the end of the starting address, and so that's how we form those. And we're going to retrieve that, and we're going to decode it. We've seen this in some other ones. We're going to check to see if we got legit data. If not, if I got a 404 not found or something else, we're going to quit. If someone hits Control-C, or Control-Z, we'll get the program interrupt, and we'll stop. If there's some other problem, right, we're going to, complain and keep going. And if we have 5 failures in a row, we're going to quit, but it will just keep on going because these things do have glitchy bits here. And so at this point, if we've made it this far, we've retrieved the URL and we've got the number of characters we've retrieved. And if we get bad data, if it doesn't start with from, because this is a mail message, right? And they all start with from space. If it's right, it starts with from space. Then what we're going to tolerate up to 5 failures there for bad data because it could be bad. And then we're going to find a blank line because that's the new line at the end of one line and then a blank line. And then we're going to take and break this into the headers, the mail headers, which is that mail headers is this stuff right here up to but not including the blank line, and then the body is everything after that. Okay, and so we'll just break that into pieces. Otherwise we'll complain and tolerate up to 5 characters. And then we're going to use a regular expression, kind of from the regular expressions chapter, to pull out an email address from the from colon line somewhere in these headers, from colon right there. It's going to go find a less than and then pull, pull this stuff out up to it. So you got the less than, you got the parenthesis, you got 1 or more non-blank characters followed by an @ followed by 1 or more non-blank characters, and we'll get back a list of those. We should only get 1. If we find 1, we're going to grab the email, we're going to strip the lowercase, and if we got some little nasty less than sign in there, we'll tolerate that as well. So this is kind of cleanup, and you get used to this where you're like, oh, how come all those email addresses have this other stuff in them? And then we also look for it if there are no less than signs, and we do this way. And that's different. Some mail messages have it this way, and others, again, you write this code after you watch it for a while. You're like, oh, it's crapped out and giving me bad stuff. And I make them all lowercase so they match better and get rid of bad characters. Well, now I got an email address. Then what I do is I look for the date of this. So I'm going to graph these by date. So I look for this line and use a regular expression to pull that out, right? So I'm looking for a date, followed by a blank, followed by any number of characters, followed by a comma. So I'm not interested in this Wednesday bit, so I'm skipping that bit right there and going and grabbing everything after that comma space. And so it's really here to the end of the line. So that's the new line. And so it's going all the way. It's going to pull this bit right here. That's the text. And this is where we're going to say, oh, that's kind of a funky looking date, and we want to standardize that date. So we're going to, let's see. Yeah, we're going to chop it off at the 26th character. Apparently, I don't know what the 26th, why we care about the 26th character, but we chop that off at the 26th character. And then we're going to parse it, and that's going to give us back a nice clean date, sent at date. Otherwise, we're going to complete, we're going to quit. And if we can't parse it, then we're going to tolerate 5 bad email addresses in a row. Then we're looking for the subject line using another regular expression. Subject line, regular expression. That's pretty easy. Up to but not including, right? There's a blank there. It's the subject. And we pull that out. We get the subject. Now at this point we've parsed it and we got good stuff, so we reset the fail counter because I kept saying if you fail 5 straight times you quit. And we're going to print it out, and then we're just going to insert that stuff. We've got the ID of the message, which we've got the email address that it came from, the time it was sent, the subject, and then basically the headers and the body, and we're just inserting it. And now we're going to say every 50th we're going to commit it, so that speeds things up. And every 100th we're going to wait a second. So that's, count is going up, 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 and every 50th you'll see it pause, and then it will, every 100th it'll pause for a second. Mostly that's to let me hit Control-C or to not overload any server. Okay, so that's the simple one. The problem is this data just gets ugly, and so you'll find yourself wanting to reset this and start it over. This one's going to work, of course, but these are hard to build, and that's why it's a good idea. Oops. Python 3 gmane.py. How many messages? Well, let's just do one. Okay, so it went and grabbed, oh, do I have this already running? 51 through 52. Let me start over. +-l star SQLite. Okay, RM content. I must have run it to test it. So let's run it again, Python gmane.py, and ask for one message. Okay, so there we went and got message 1 from 1 to 2. We got 226 characters, and we printed out the email address, the time we got it after all that hacking, and the subject line, and that's what we got. So if we take a look at the database and we go into the Gmane, anytime you see the content SQLite journal, that means it needed to run a commit, and it hasn't run a commit, but I'll hit enter and that will do the commit, and you see that vanish. So now I can open it and I take a look at, how come there's no messages? Did that one not get stored in there for some reason? Just refresh. Huh, well, let's run it again. Maybe it didn't commit. Maybe I got a bug in it. Let's make a change to the code. I'm going to see this connection.commit. See that? Connection.commit. I'm going to commit there. And the other thing I'm going to do is every time I stop to read, I'm going to commit right before I read it. So I think we should, I hope that doesn't blow up. We'll see. So the idea is that if I want to stop, I want it committed. So let's do this. Let's do one message. And now I should hit, is it committed? Now that I put the commits in, I think that it will look better. And I can't refresh, and so there it is because I committed it. And I don't have the journal file, so that's good. So that's a good idea to put those commits there. So I'll just leave those commits in. When you download it, it'll have those commits in there. So again, I put a commit here and a commit at the very, very end to make sure. And then I missed that. But now we get one, right? And so let's just run it again, and you'll see how by selecting the max of the ID, it's going to select the max of this and then add 1 to it, so it doesn't do the next one. So if I run it again, I say give me one message, so it goes 2 to 3, and give me 2 messages, right? So I hit enter, and I can do refresh, and now you see we've got 4 messages. Okay, and so let's just fire this baby up, tell it to get 100. Run, right? It just goes and goes, and it pauses once in a while to do a commit. And if I made a commit every time, it just paused there. Now it finished. So this will run, and we will get a bunch of data. The problem is if I just run this, it'll take about 5 hours, okay, to run this and get this all. And I've got a really fast connection, so I have got a file that you can download. Let's go find it. Let's see if I can, let's see how long it'll take me to download this. I've got a file that you can download and save. Now I'm going to use the command line curl, or wget is another command that we Linux and Mac people can use. I don't know, you might have to use your browser to do it. Let's see how long this is going to take. It's retrieving. Minute 30. Okay, well I'll just wait when this comes back. Okay, so now that's done. I was averaging 10 megabits a second. I downloaded about 600 megabytes, 10 megabits a second. That will probably be slower for you. But so now if I take a look, you're going to find that that content.sqlite is 624 megabytes. Now what happens is I've pre-spidered this, and so now if you run gmane.py and ask for 5 more messages, it will pick up where I left that one off. So it's up to message 59,000. And I think that, oh, you saw an error. See, you saw a bug in that one. I don't know what's wrong with that one. So let's see if, so at this point we're going to have most of the data. It might find its way to the very end. Once you get this, it should be not too much more. I don't know, maybe it's like 63,000 or something. So what we'll do is we will let that run, and we will come back when that one's finished, and run the next phase after it's got all of its data. Okay? So thanks for listening.